Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Supernatural Substation, your last stop before the unknown. I'm your host, Alyne Pustanio, and my co host, Bernadine Richardson, will be joining us shortly with tonight's guest, Jacob Floyd. Jacob is one half of the Frightening Floyds, and together with his wife Jenny, he is the author of multiple books through Nightmare Press Publishers. Jacob and Jenny are also paranormal researchers and paranormal travel enthusiasts, and the original owner operators of two historic haunted ghost walks in Louisville, Kentucky. Jacob joins us tonight to discuss many of his real life experiences with the paranormal at locations including Waverly Hills Sanatorium, the haunted Seelbach Hotel and Cave Hill Cemetery, Point Pleasant, Virginia, home of the Mothman, and haunted Fort Wayne, Indiana. So stay right there. Bernadine and Jacob will join us in the substation after this quick break.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Supernatural Substation. My co host extraordinaire, Bernadine, is with me. Say hey, Bernadine.
Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
how are you doing, Dean?
I'm doing great.
I'm
Hope everybody's
glad.
doing good.
Good,
Mm.
good, good. I'm glad. Everything's all right in your neck of the woods then.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. And hanging in the background is our guest, Jason Floyd. He's one half of the Frightening Floyds. His wife couldn't join us tonight. Her name is Jenny. And he's an author, a paranormal researcher, and a paranormal travel enthusiast. And he is also, with Jenny, owner operator of two historic haunted ghost walks in Louisville, Kentucky. So, welcome, Jacob. Thank you for being on our show.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
Excellent. We're ready to hear some ghost stories from haunted Kentucky, definitely. But we're also ready to hear a little bit about you and how you got into it. I know you've written some books with your wife, so tell us a little bit about that and your background.
Well, I've had weird experiences in my life, but I was never like into like paranormal investigating. I mean, some of my friends and I used to seek out haunted places and go check them out, like any kinds of young people
Mm-hmm.
do, I guess. But Jenny was wanting, she was really into paranormal, and she wanted to start. She met somebody at work where she used to work who was part of a paranormal investigation team for a short while, and she got to talking to them and decided that she was going to go with them on a investigation. And so I went, and I was always working on writing and publishing and stuff like that. So we kind of got the idea to write a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of, I guess, put those two things together, and it kind of led to where we're at now with the publishing company and the several books that we have, and one of the tours we developed, which unfortunately we don't operate anymore. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but we're trying to get one of them started again.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of material in Louisville, Kentucky, a lot of ghosts and hauntings there. But, it's not a place that immediately comes to mind. Although, isn't Waverly Hills in Kentucky? I think
Waverly,
that's, yeah, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's in Louisville. Yeah.
In Louisville, yeah. So, well, and you've written with Jenny several books. I just looked a little bit at your books, and you could, go over some of the ghostly hauntings that and some of the material that's in there. And also, I mean, I know you like to travel. Y'all like to travel and go experience other haunted places. So, what are some of the haunts of Louisville, Kentucky? We can start there.
Well, other than Waverly, our first our first paranormal book we wrote together was actually Louisville Strange and Unusual Haunts, and there was a couple of places from the Louisville Ghost History and Haunts tour we did. It was actually called Nulu History and Haunts, which is an area of Louisville, Kentucky, which is in the downtown area, which is on East Market Street.
Mm-hmm.
And there were surprisingly several allegedly haunted locations just going right down the street. One of my favorite places, though, and this wasn't on our tour. One of my favorite places was the Seelbach Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually on another person's tour out here. But we did a lot of research on that, and we actually went there and stayed overnight and some tried to do some ghost hunting, and we actually ran into the night manager there who knows all the stories about the ghosts and all the history of the place. But it's really interesting to see to write about that because it's also the Seelbach Hotel is what the Mulebach Hotel in The Great Gatsby was based on when F. Scott Fitzgerald lived here in Louisville during his army training days, and he
Mm.
that whole book was based on his experience here in Louisville. Of course, he changed it all around for fiction. So, and
Yeah.
supposedly, because he stayed at the Seelbach quite often, and supposedly even his ghost is there. So,
Yeah, he's hanging around, huh? Well, I mean,
yeah.
the history of Louisville, I confess to not knowing a whole, like details of it, but I mean, it goes back. Founded, but I know it, it played a central role in at least a lot of the history of the moving west and everything. So, what are some of the things that, the historic events maybe that produced some of those hauntings that are still persisting down there?
Well, I know during the researching of our tour and talking to people, there was a big flood that happened up and down the area in 1937, and that caused a lot of cholera and other kinds of deaths from disease. Some people think that caused a lot of like the ghosts that could be on around East Market Street because it's not far from the river. Um, and of course, not necessarily in Louisville, but all throughout Kentucky, the Civil War.
Hmm.
There's a lot of that sort of those stories and ghosts, and we wrote about some of them in Kentucky's haunted mansions because some of them were makeshift, you know, hospitals at times or places that Confederate soldiers and even Union soldiers stopped at.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. There's probably a lot of a lot of different. Of course, a lot of people point to Native American presence and lore and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
of course, Waverly's history of all the disease there. But
Hmm.
there was an incident too um, in the Nulu area, and we actually passed the area it happened on our tour. I think it was called Bloody Monday when there was like a big riot up and down the streets over some voting stuff, the Know Nothing Party and the Irish immigrants, because that area was heavily immigrated by Irish people and Germans and
Hmm.
all over the area. So I think that could have something to do with it.
Well, what are some of your personal experiences, either on the tours or in researching some of these locations?
Um, well, there was one incident Jenny and I both had on the waiting to start the Nulu tour. There was supposedly a spirit in the alleyway behind one of the buildings who who was someone that was supposedly killed in the alley, or whatever. And they said that she had been seen walking out from the alley and waiting on the corner and then walking back in the alley.
Hello?
But we were out there waiting one time to start the tour, and then the tour started right there on that corner that she was supposedly at. And we were there. We heard a woman's voice to say, "Hey," like that, and we were like, "What?" And we looked around. There was absolutely nobody around. We thought that was
Wow.
kind of weird, um, but of course, being outside, who knows what that could have been.
Hmm.
But we did experience some strange things at the Seelbach Hotel. Um, I remember being up there around the 10th floor ballroom that's supposed to be haunted. And I was coming down the hallway or coming down towards that area, and there was like this strange, like shadow-esque thing that was kind of like what they call the I think they call it the creeper over at Waverly, but it kind of looked like that, and it just went real quick along the top of the wall towards the ceiling, and kind of disappeared. And also when we were there staying the night, we took a nap and woke up and was going to go around late so we wouldn't disturb too many people and wouldn't be too many people up. And we were recording, and I said I was looking out the window because up on 10th floor, and I said it was a long way down. I started singing that Goo Goo Doll song, "Long Way Down," just being silly. And then we were watching the video back. Right after I was doing that, we could heard a woman's voice say, "You can't sing. Why are you doing that?"
A review from the other side.
Yeah, and we were like, "Whoa!" I was like, "I can't believe that." Um, we also had an instance in Cave Hill Cemetery, which is a really nice cemetery. It's where like Muhammad Ali was buried, and Colonel Sanders, and the the old Frito Lay magician. I think his name was Harry Collins. I just get it mixed up. I can't remember if it's Henry or Harry because I don't have the greatest memory these days.
That's
But
okay.
and we were at his grave, and he's got a big statue of himself there, and people would throw pennies and cards, down around his feet, and sometimes they put him like in his hand because one of his hands are extended, and they try to hang a card up by his ear. We were there one time, and all that stuff was there, and Jenny and one of her friends were doing a spirit box thing, having a spirit box there, and there was like some really weird sounds coming out of it, and the malfunctioning noises there. But we came back again, just Jenny and I, and Jenny had noticed that I guess they had cleaned up all the pennies and cards or whatever. And she was standing, and we have this video on our YouTube channel, but we haven't done anything with that channel in years. But she's standing there with the spirit box, and she's looking up at the statue, and then she stands up on the little platform right in front of it, and she said, "What happened to all your stuff?" And then on the spirit box, you can hear it say, "That's too close," right after she stands up. And there was a couple other interesting responses on there, but that was definitely the best one. I thought, wow, that's strange.
Did you start out as a skeptic or as a partial believer, or how did you start out when you got into the paranormal, basically researching it?
I'm a kind of a strange person. I have a lot of like I've tried to view everything with like all the way down to asking why until you can't ask why anymore or how anymore. And I always try to view both sides about, and it frustrates a lot of people how objective I can be sometimes about anything. So, even if it's just two people having a disagreement, I try to see both their sides and explain it to both of them. And they're just like, no, listen to me. So, like, even with like the paranormal, it's the same way. And like, I believe that there's something that we don't completely know about out there. And I have a lot of theories, possible theories of what it could be. But I don't really know if I believe in intelligent haunts 100%, but then again, I don't know. It's kind of hard with some of the things I have seen, kind of lean towards believing that. But I think parapsychology has a lot of interesting answers too, and I don't know. I think there's just too much. I don't, and I also don't think like I know there's some people out there who they find ghosts in every house they go in, and everywhere that's supposed to be haunted. They're like, oh yeah, I know it's haunted. There's ghosts going all through me. I don't necessarily buy into that, but and I also don't 100% believe that every explanation that you can come up with for something that's supposedly paranormal necessarily fits. Sometimes well, I can explain it, and it's this is it. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's probably that's definitely I would agree. That's probably what it is. And then other times I'm like, well, that sounds good, but no, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. So I don't. It's just
No,
I'm a
it's
skeptic.
good to be that way. Yeah, it's good to be
Yeah,
skeptical.
I'm
'Cause
open minded about the existence of it. I'm willing to believe in it, but I'm skeptic about a lot of claims. I'm skeptical about a lot of claims on it.
mhm. Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, it's like that's entertainment a lot of the time. Like what people see on TV, that's what they think it is. That something happens everywhere you go. That you're always getting evidence, that you're always getting, you're always being contacted, and that's not always the case. Dean, do you want to come in with some questions for Jacob?
Yeah, well, actually, Waverly Hills is on my bucket list to go to one day, as is probably a lot of paranormal investigators. Um, and it was a big point in the tuberculosis
Mm-hmm.
times, I believe, the Black
Yeah.
Plague. Um,
I think the Black Plague was in England, but it was
in
primarily
England, yeah,
tuberculosis.
tuberculosis. And I
Yeah.
remember seeing some pictures years ago. I don't remember where, can't tell you, but they didn't have much medication back then for that, and they thought that sunlight was a good, I guess, natural source to heal.
Mm.
So they had the kids up on the top, which was open. I don't know how it looks because I've never been there, but I was wondering if you guys were there and if they do still have the top of that building open and if you feel things up there because there were so many children at the top.
Yeah, there's certain areas of that building that they don't allow people in just because of the condition and the deterioration. But there's a lot of open area. There's the breezeways are open in a lot of areas, and that's where they would put patients. They would put a lot of patients out, adults and children out on the breezeway because, like you said, they believed that that was, sunlight could help, and being out there with the wind and all that and feeling would lift people's spirits, make them feel better or whatever. Um, we walked on the breezeway a lot, and it's just I to tell you about Waverly too. Is like it's interesting just to be there. Like you come up on it, and it's pretty ominous looking because it's huge, and it's all the windows are busted out, so it's kind of creepy anyway. But when you get up on there, it is really nice to go through there and walk along the breezeway. It's a nice view, and it's really cool. But we did go up on the roof, and we had some pretty strange experiences up there. I know there was one of the workers there. She had, well, I don't think she's there anymore, but she had a really nice spirit box, and and she had said that one of the spirits that were there didn't like her and all that, and there was a lot of vulgar communication coming out of that thing towards her, towards that spirit box. It was one of those boxes that didn't have the static sound. It kind of sounded garbled, and then like the voices would
Uh-huh.
come through. And I was listening, and we were up there, um, and Jenny, and I could tell you if whatever being a psychic is, I don't know how to really explain that. But like if you people who are attuned to paranormal energies, Jenny's one of them. I
Mm.
won't go off on a sidebar, but we were up there and she could feel like she said she didn't like the feeling up there anymore. She wanted to leave. She wanted to get off the roof. Okay, so as we were going down, right, I heard something behind us. I was the last person behind because I'm the type of person I go into these places that are supposed to be haunted, and I'm just like whatever. I'm not scared to go around and look. So I hung back and I was wanting to see just in case anything happened. So I heard something like if I can remember all the events chronologically and what actually happened. I remember like some kind of sound. Like I think I remember a scruffing sound, like someone walking. And at one point, I stopped and turned around, and I saw like a pair of eyes, like it looked like a pair of orangish eyes or whatever, reddish eyes. And I
Ooh.
was like, "What the heck?" I was like, "Well, these windows are wide open, so what could be up here?" It was up in the air, like maybe somebody who was like anywhere between 5'7" and 6 foot, maybe.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. So I don't know. I was like, well, it's not a bat because a bat wouldn't just stand in one spot. But then I watched it move, like it came a little bit towards me, and I could see as it came in light, it looked like there was a bit of a silhouette, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then Jenny called for me to come downstairs or come on, so I started moving. And as I went down one flight of stairs, um, I looked back up and I could see it now. It was closer. It was coming towards the stairs. And I watched again and it kind of just was there, and so I kept going, and then like a rock came like shooting down the stairs, like somebody had kicked, like it was not a big rock, but like a little rock, like somebody kicked it, and we all started smelling that old, what they say, that old sulfur type smell or whatever. And it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty rank,
Oh,
and I was
good.
kind of like, huh. And like, so we were going down there, and when we get down to the last floor, the first floor, they still had their Halloween stuff up because it was, around that time. Halloween had passed, but they still had their decorations of their haunted house up. So we come through a curtain, and I looked back and I saw whatever it was, its eyes, and it was getting like closer. And I was like, and I could see like somewhat of a shadowy outline. I was like, what the heck? So I was passing through and I was walking down. The guy that was with us, one of the guys that were with us, he kept praying. And I said, I think you're just making it mad. But so we got a little further away and we were looking back towards the curtain, and I was telling myself, and then you could see the curtains parted and you could see whatever was there looking back at us, because the guy goes, oh my God, look at that. Look. And
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
wow. And then the woman who worked there, the one who had said the thing didn't like her, she ended up going to the bathroom and throwing up. But when we were going through our pictures later, we found this picture of like an outline of other people who saw it described it as looking like the outline of a gorilla or an ape, because it looked like it was it looked like it was leaning on its knuckles or whatever. But you could see the eyes, you could see the orange lights,
Oh
and
wow.
like they look like little eyes. And it's not a great picture. I had to really like lighten it and everything. And but yeah, one of my coworkers saw it when we posted it on our page, and she's like, that looked like a gorilla. There are gorilla ghosts on the roof at Waverly. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And the bad thing is we lost all of our pictures, and I don't know if I still have that anywhere.
Oh shoot.
Oh,
It was in our book, but our book's now out of print, so I don't know.
Oh well, you'll have to just live with the memory, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd have been out of there. I would have given up and said that's it. But
yeah. I used to think before I went there, I thought, I bet that Waverly, I bet they make up a lot of this stuff just to get people in there. And I
mhm,
do think there might have been some things that were staged when we first got there. But after
mhm.
a while, I'm like, man, they didn't stage that. There's no
No,
way. Because if that would have been an actual person, I would have noticed it. I was close enough to it to tell if it was an actual person.
right, right, and you'd have heard it. You definitely would have heard
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they wouldn't have been able to sneak past us and
never
Yeah,
would
spook.
have
not
been out of there.
yeah, not in that kind of environment because everything was, it's so disheveled and everything. That's creepy. That's definitely creepy.
Definitely interesting.
Hmm. Well, I also saw that you guys like to travel for, and go on sort of like paranormal haunt locations elsewhere. So, I mean, what are some of the places you guys have been to and your impressions of that?
Uh, well, we mostly got around just Kentucky and Indiana. We did go to the Mothman, Point Pleasant, where all that is.
Oh, you did?
Um, yeah, I can't remember everywhere we've gone to, but we definitely had plans to go other places. We wanted to go to Salem. We had planned a trip to San Jose out to go see the Winchester Mansion.
Hmm.
But I don't know. My personal favorite place that we visited once was Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Hmm.
I know nobody talks about Fort Wayne, Indiana, but it's a really haunted city with a lot of stuff. And I talked to some people, and went up there and took pictures, and investigated some things, and was going to write a book. I'm in the process of writing a book that I was going to write years ago about it, and she and I are working on it. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's probably my favorite place. There's just all kinds of and there's nothing like elaborate, nothing major.
Hmm.
But like the old GE plant that was up there is supposed to be haunted, and it has like alien story tied to it. And there's like a bridge
What?
that's supposed to, yeah,
An
they're supposed
alien
to,
at the
yeah, they're
GE
supposed
plant?
to. And it's funny because out here we wrote a book called Aliens Over Kentucky as well. And out
Hmm.
here there was like when her father worked at GE out here,
Hmm.
um there was it was during the time where there was a supposed dogfight with an alien over top of GE. And the story to that was actually that a policeman in a helicopter encountered this weird orb like craft up there, and it shot like a light at him. And policemen on the ground saw it too. Like it was in the news and everything. And
Mm.
she said she remembered when her father came home that night and was talking about it, and they all got sent home for it or something. But anyway, that was
Wow.
kind of I digressed there. But yeah, a lot of the stuff, and I can't remember all of it because I got it wrote down. But there's just a lot of like little places in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that have certain ghost stories tied to them, and I
Hmm.
enjoyed that being up there.
I wonder what they're cooking up at the GE plants, though. That makes you
Oh,
wonder,
oh
like,
yeah,
what's the connection? They got the Iron Dome going on over GE or
I
something.
know. That's another thing too. Like when I researched that story further, I found some other things that were connected to like other GE plants or in the direction of other GE plants. I can't remember all of it now. It was really interesting, and it's in Aliens Over Kentucky. But something that happened in New York, and something about seeing a UFO that flew from one area towards the other. Then it happened in another GE plant. I don't know. It was weird. It was all connected. I'm like, that is strange. So it's like, let's just say for a minute, let's pretend like all these conspiracy theories about aliens and UFOs are true, and that technology advanced so rapidly after making contact with them.
Mhm.
Like, well, I don't know. Maybe GE's in on it. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
hard.
uh,
I don't
They're,
know.
u- they're using Area 51 as a diversion. What's really happening is GE, right?
Yeah.
That is
Maybe
uncanny, though. That is kind of creepy, you know.
maybe GE secretly owns Area 51. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe they're all connected by tunnels or something. Oh, okay, we're extrapolating now.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think of Mothman and Point Pleasant?
I liked that movie a lot when I was younger,
Mhm.
and because that came out when I was like, I don't know, 20 or something. But
Mhm.
and I thought it was pretty creepy, and like I never thought much more about the story until Jenny and I started dealing, all that,
Mhm.
and I started reading about it. Of course, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, yeah, it's probably just bunch of stuff. People just somebody thought they saw something and that was it. But the more you
Right.
read about it, like, no, it's. I'm not gonna say it was truly like what they think it is, but there was a lot of weird stuff that went on, and there was actually pictures at the Mothman Museum of like Men in Black type characters hiding around town. And there was the one picture I really remember is like over, I think it was over by the old movie theater there, maybe, but somewhere there was a man in black who, black hat, black coat. He was pinned in a corner, and he was looking down, trying to like peek around the street. And it's just like, this is a picture from the 60s. Like you could tell it was an old picture, like they didn't make it up.
Mhm.
And it was really strange. And there was a lot of stories about them talking to people, like coming around town, asking people what they saw.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of like, I think one of the stories too was like members of the Red Cross said that the Mothman landed on top of their truck and was like rocking it back and forth. I'm like, why are they gonna lie? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like the mass hysteria. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that a whole town of people are gonna have the same hallucinations and delusions.
Mhm.
I don't buy into that. See, that's one of those supposedly like explanations that people use that to me it just doesn't make sense. You can maybe have two or three people that maybe think they saw something, but you got an entire town, and no, I don't think so. But
Yeah, because
you know,
in the movie, when they adapted it for the movie, a lot of people were having these like premonition or visitations before the bridge collapsed. I think
right.
they tried to connect it to that, but um, so you don't believe that they actually had these premonitions?
No, I mean there's a lot of. I think they may have. If they did, they were not like. I don't think it was everybody hallucinating.
Mm,
So that's what I'm
okay.
saying. Like
Hmm.
there's something there. If they did, there would be something to that. There's something worth exploring there.
Yeah, because that would be like mind control.
Yeah,
or
obviously,
something like that.
if everyone's having the same hallucinations, that means someone is probably controlling their minds. And I'm not, and I'm not one to necessarily always believe things like, oh, they can put thoughts in your head. The government can do that, or aliens can do that. But what if they can? I mean, I don't know. But if everybody's having hallucinations, sounds like something's going on. So
Well,
I don't.
here's what I have to say
The
about that.
TV.
What about when you're totally alone by yourself? Okay, I'm sure you've heard this, okay? But this goes toward the hallucination thing. But you're totally alone. Nobody's around. You don't say it out loud, but you think, I need to get, like, I don't know, some aluminum foil at the grocery. And you go on to, Facebook or, the Weather Channel, and all of a sudden you're seeing, an aluminum foil ad. I mean, that has happened to me where I've thought about different things, and suddenly it shows up. Do you know about that? I don't know if that's ever happened to you. I don't know about you, Dean, but it's happened to me a lot where I'm like completely alone. I think, oh, I got to do so and so or check that so and so, and then I happen to go on some platform, even YouTube, and it pops up, and it's like, okay, do I have metal in my brain? What happened? How to, and it's, I don't know, because I'm sitting near this phone. So like today, I don't know about back then. I mean, there is mass hysteria from people just telling stories to each other. But like today, it's more plausible for, them to, I don't know, maybe manipulate us into seeing whatever they want us to see. But has that ever happened to you, Jacob? Where you've been like, you thought about something, you didn't tell your wife, you didn't tell anybody. It's like, oh, I got to get that or whatever. It shows up in an ad on Facebook or in an article that you're reading. It
There's
happens all the
definitely
time.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I've had something similar to that happen, and I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you any instances of
Mm-hmm.
that. I know it's happened. I just don't remember them. And that's like, but I know like when I was younger, like when I was a teenager, I was in my room or whatever, I'd sleep with the radio on, or I'd just be in bed with the radio on, or I'd just be sitting in the room with the radio on if I was like, I don't know, playing Nintendo or something, whatever I was doing as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And and there was a number of times where I would be listening to the radio. I'm not sitting here and saying it happened all the time, but I mean when I say number, it could have been like 4 or 5 times. But I was sitting there and a song would be going off, and then I'd hear another song coming on in my head, and then that song would come on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I, there'd be times like I used to watch baseball when I was a teenager a lot, and I'd be sitting there watching the game, and I'd be like, I'd see what happened before it happened. Sometimes like a guy would be at the plate and I'd see him hitting, I don't know, getting a line drive to left field, and then like 3 seconds later he'd get that line drive to left field. It didn't happen a lot, but I mean, so, and I don't really believe that you can see the future, so I don't know how to explain it, but maybe that wasn't necessarily the future. What I mean? They got all these parallel universe ideas and all,
The
reality.
Mandela effect
Yeah.
and, plain old ESP. But and in that, yeah, there's an argument for, like ESP, and there are some weird things with the Mandela effect. But, this scares me. It's like, I don't know, like just happened. It just happened yesterday, in a weird thing that is disconnected from everything. There's a YouTube channel that I used to watch that I don't, and for some reason I thought about it. And I was like, well, I'm gonna check it out. I don't subscribe anymore, but it's like, I'll check it. I'm gonna check it out next time. Well, it's in my. Then I open YouTube, and there's, I'm searching, just looking at regular videos, and here it is. It's the same, it's that channel, and it pops up. I'm like, Did they put, it's like, do I have a plate in my head? What's going on? I need to get out and
There,
touch grass for sure. But I mean, I'm like, no, this is too creepy. And then you add, the whole government thing in. And I can believe Mothman, the whole thing was bizarre. And I can believe that happened.
well, there's definitely
I
way
have a
too many.
question
Wait, what?
about Point Pleasant. I have a question about the museum.
Oh, yeah.
You, Jacob, you had said that you had seen the photos from the past, some of
Hmm.
the photos,
Yeah.
and you said they had men in black. were they dressed like futuristic, or
Um,
were they dressed like they were in that time period?
I guess that'd be hard to say. I didn't look at him and think futuristic. Now we want to talk small details as far as whenever
Uh-huh.
that happened compared to nowadays. And I don't know about fashion so much, but they were just kind of like just wearing regular black suits with the ties, and they had on the hat, the hat and stuff, and I think the sunglasses. But yeah, it was. Other than that, I wouldn't say they looked out of place. Kind of like how they, if it's kind of like what you're referring to, like people who have seen pictures that were like back in the 20s, and they see him like holding a cell phone, that kind of thing.
Oh,
It was
time
not.
traveler. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Like
it
time
was
travel
not any.
people,
Do I?
Oh, Dean, what?
like time travel
Mm,
type people.
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't. I didn't see anything like that.
Well,
Okay.
if you think about it, I mean, um, anytime past like the 1920s, approximately, a guy in a black suit, you know, I mean, it's pretty commonplace in any period. But
Yeah,
it's true that in the 60s, they like to wear those little trilby hats, and the hats were black too. And so they do kind of keep up with, like the current fashion, so they don't look, from what I understand, so they don't look so garishly out of place, so they kind of blend in. But there's just something all wrong about them. There's something completely off, even though they look like any normal, like, bank employee or any guy walking down the street. So
right.
it
Because
is
the story.
mhm.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say the stories were that that town was so small they didn't know these guys, and everybody knew everybody, and nobody. And I think if I remember correctly, nobody in town really dressed like that. So that was what really made them stand out. Because Point Pleasant, they've built on obviously other parts, but the part where the Mothman incidents happen is really small, and I believe that they're everybody probably did know everybody. That so it is strange that the guys were there, but there's nothing about them that I saw that stood out as time traveler like.
Hmm. I know that there's like the old section of town that hasn't changed much, and I don't know. Have you ever watched Dan Bell? Have you ever seen his videos on YouTube? He's he does some creepy. He's just like an urbex explorer. That's how he started, and he started out not believing in the paranormal at all. He would argue and argue about it, but he has a whole. I mean, he has a huge catalog of work that he's put up on his channel, but he's one guy who has caught more quote unquote paranormal evidence than almost anybody, just simply by accident, and just by his urban explorations. So he went down to Point Pleasant, and there's a hotel. I think it's just called the Point Pleasant Hotel in downtown, and he and his partner, whoever was working with him, the guy that that came along with him, they were there alone, and nobody else was in the hotel. No staff, no visitors. They were the only two. And if you go on his channel and you look back, it is the creepiest experience. It's like The Shining almost, and it's obviously haunted. But then you'd look out and they got the Mothman statue outside, and it was snowing. Very atmospheric, but just the whole thing is just creepy and bizarre. It's like the supernatural meets the UFO, meets the Men in Black thing. But it's worth going to his channel to watch it. It's just him and this guy walking through the hotel. But by the end of it, you're like so creeped out. They're alone in the hotel by themselves. Like if anything happens, you're on your own. Like they locked them in, and that was it. So
Yeah,
you
I don't
should
think
check it out.
I don't think they get too many visitors to that hotel anymore, and it's strangely large for that small part of town. But
Mhm.
I think there was like a lot of river travel and barge work around there, so that could be why the hotel was so large. But we went in there and we didn't go up on any floors, but we talked to I guess he's the innkeeper. If I don't know if he owned the place and he lived there or not, but he was an older gentleman, and yeah, we were just asking him about if the place was still open. And I guess they still let people come in, or at least they did then.
Mhm.
But I don't think they get too much business because other than the Mothman Museum, there's and probably the Mothman Festival, there's nothing really to see there. Like everything else is closed down.
Well, I think Bernadine, we need to put that on the bucket list. We need to go there, and it's because it was a creep fest. Doors were opening on their own, and these two guys were not like they're not Zach Bagans. Oh my God, and jumping at everything. They didn't believe in any of this, at least, and Dan Bell didn't. He's come a long way since then, but it's just creepy. And then they'd look out and you'd see that Mothman statue and stuff. It's just like, I think that the guy that runs the museum may have been or be the guy that ran the hotel too. I'm not sure. But it's just the whole thing is creepy. We've had some people who've had encounters on our show with actual encounters with the Mothman. And so it's just, he's one of the creepier cryptids. And I believe something happened there, because obviously a bridge collapsed and there were warnings about it. So, but anyway, I went off on that tangent. You should check out his channel. It's really good. So, but where are some places that you guys would like to go? If you get a chance to travel again and start traveling, what are some places that are on your bucket list?
I know she wants to go up to Salem a lot. She's talked about wanting to see the Lizzie Borden house too, wherever that's at.
Falls River. I think it's Falls River, Massachusetts. Yeah.
That sounds right. We stopped by Bobby Mackey's, but we didn't get to go in when we went out here. But that's a lot of the backstory about the guy cutting off the head and everything. That didn't even happen there. A lot of the history there that they tell you is not accurate, even though it was a place where gangsters used to hang out. So there probably was violence there. But I would kind of like to have gone in there and seen it and go down to this supposed gate to hell that they have there. But
yeah,
I'd really like to try. I was looking forward to the traveling out to the Winchester mansion, because even before the paranormal, even before I even really thought about that, I was like, I thought that was cool when I saw a show about that place when I was like 14, because I was like, man, that sounds like a cool place. But also just traveling and seeing all the different states on the way there was something else I looked forward to. So.
Yeah, but that Winchester house, that's another weird thing. Just spirits kept telling her to build and build and keep building. And I
also wonder if there wasn't mental illness with her, though. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I think what is the story? It's the spirits came or somehow or another she was communicated with, and they said you have to make up for all the restitution for all the people that have been killed by the Winchester rifles. That sounds, that kind of sounds like spiritualism at the time, but then it probably met her mental state. Like she must have been crazy. If she wasn't crazy when she started, she must have been crazy when it ended after all that crap, friggin' hammering and sawing and all to do all this constant activity must have driven her insane, or other people, by the time it was over. That's one. I went to the Whaley house in San Diego, and I wasn't impressed at all. I really wasn't. I know a lot of people say it's really creepy, but I really wasn't impressed. We did meet a woman who was 97 years old and had been there, like when the last of the Whaleys still owned the house or something. So that was the most interesting thing. So
I would say that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, she was like 97, and I remember, she was the most interesting thing. But all of the rooms are like they have this plexiglass in front of them, and you can't go into the rooms, which I understand. But so you said you're working on, you're back to working on some books, some new books, or bringing back old projects. So what are you going to do, and are you going to release them soon?
I'm working on 1,000 things at once. So like when we revived the fiction press in January, and then we just recently decided to put the two together, the paranormal nonfiction with the fiction press. So like I'm working on publishing a lot of other people, but I'm also working on some of my own fiction stuff, and then I'm wanting to get some of these old paranormal books that we got back from the publishers to publish. I want to touch them up and republish them. And then there's still a couple others we want to work on. I want to work on the one about Fort Wayne. So I don't know. We doing all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's good though. I'm glad. You should come down to New Orleans and do a book on on New Orleans.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know that was another place she wanted to visit was New Orleans, but
Mhm.
man, I think get in line. Everybody's written a book about New Orleans.
It's true. Even I have.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Everybody. I live. You know. Well, I mean, I'm from New Orleans, and Dean is in Lafayette, Southwest Louisiana. But I mean, you know, the whole state claims New Orleans because it's like one of the most haunted cities. But you know that. I mean, operating ghost tours, you have to make things entertaining, and you know, some of the stuff is not exactly as it happened, right? So they always embellish, and some of the stories just are not, you know, not exactly the truth, but they are creepy. So you should come down and visit and put that on your bucket list.
Yeah, as long as it's fun, that's all part of it. And like with our tours, I just took the stories that people gave us and told them as they were, you know, because even if I was kind of like, I don't know if I believe this, but it's still the story, you know what I mean? It's like they said this happened, and I thought, well, you know, I'm not until like at the beginning, like in any book and at the beginning of our tours, I always say we're not corroborating the stories. Some now the experiences that were our own, these were our own, but we're not necessarily saying they were ghosts. But yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, that I think some people start out doing that stuff, and like you mentioned Zach Bagan, I think he's one to talk about too. I think they start out maybe, you know, they start especially with tours, they start out legit, and I think like with Zach, I think maybe he started out somewhat legit, but then they end up that they realize they getting all this money, so they want to keep it going, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so like with the New Orleans tours or whatever other tours, I think sometimes people start adding to them. And but I think like with the television shows, they're like, oh man, we got to have ghosts in every show, or no one's going to watch us. So yeah,
Right. I listened to Jason Hawes recently talking about some crazy activity that's going on with the Conjuring house, apparently. But I don't know if you've heard what's going on, but it's
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
just
And
sounds like a stupid drama, is what it sounds like to me.
drama, I don't even, I mean, I can't even, it's just unbelievable that it's all unfolding. Now it sucked him in and it sucked somebody else in. But he said, he was, and I, you know, I didn't, ghost hunters faked a lot of stuff, period. That's the truth. They faked it
Yeah,
a lot. And, you know, and I know definitely a couple locations that are just BS locations that say, they said, oh yeah, definitely haunted because they're money makers for the owners. But he
yeah,
said that that somebody asked him a question about why does something happen in every episode, you know, because that's not how it is when you investigate. And he said that they would do like 100 episodes and the network would only use like maybe 30 out of it. The ones that had, you know, that they either had something happen or they could fudge it and say something happened. They did a lot of, you know, episodes that we've never even seen. And apparently he's coming clean. I don't know. He must have passed his midlife crisis or something. But yeah, I'm just watching, popping popcorn, watching all this craziness with the Conjuring house. And, you know, he had to put a restraining order on somebody. And then it was on TV news. And I'm like, what is going on over there? So that's how I started watching. So, I mean, as far as like Zach Bagans and they've gone to so many locations that eventually, you know, this is what I say, like they'll find something real. Like, you know, for every 10 or 100, let's say 100 locations or 50 locations, they'll hit a real one. And it looks like they don't know what to do when they do, you know, like when they hit it, you know, and they're especially notorious for all that drama and everything. So, and, you know, making all that money off of it. But, you know, it's just fakery. And then we're back, you know, back to the tours. Hey, you know, people aren't going to pay if they're not creeped out or it's not crazy, you know, sounding. But I like it when somebody will say, yeah, this is a story, but this is what's supposed to be the fact. And then they let you make up your own mind, you know, whether you believe it or not. So, but
yeah. We
Dean,
also
I'm sorry, Jacob, go ahead.
that's why I like to get into the history of a lot of the places and that we
Mm-hmm.
did that were on our tours. I think a lot of people always find that interesting too. Even if
Mm-hmm.
they didn't come there for that, they end up being like, "Oh, that was really interesting stuff."
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's even because there's always people who don't believe it, but they're going along, for the ghost, for the adventure of it. I was saying, Dean, did you have any questions for Jacob?
I was just wondering where y'all gonna go from here. You gonna keep on investigating, writing more books?
Yeah, we're still going to write books. Kind of like when we did Kentucky Strange and Unusual Haunts. Like we didn't visit all those locations. We just researched about a lot of places and put together what information there was. But we did research a lot of like the Fort Wayne and a lot of the Louisville areas. As far as where we're going on the paranormal end, Jenny went and did an investigation at a bookstore in LaGrange, Kentucky. That one we're actually going to be at this weekend, signing some books and selling some books of other authors too that we published. And for me, I guess I'm trying to get all this publishing done, get these presses going. So we got a lot of authors' books to publish, and I'm also, like I said, going to try to write. Jenny and I are going to try to write the paranormal books and republish and write my own stuff. And Jenny's actually working on her memoirs right now.
That's sweet. That's good. I don't know. Maybe I should write, huh, Dean? We should write memoirs.
Yeah.
I don't have that much interesting to relate, I don't think.
She's
Anyway.
just it's basically not like her entire life memoirs, but just her paranormal experiences and when she was a kid, she had them and what brought her to doing this and all
Oh,
this stuff. So
yeah.
that was more. She's not writing about her entire life. But
Well, I don't know. Some people keep a diary. I don't journal, but a lot of people do, and they start when they're young, and then they publish it. And
yeah.
everybody gets to read it. But yeah, I've done. I have a book like that kind of touches on some things, but I'm also working on one that kind of like goes through the chronology of stuff that happened to me from when I was young until now. So, and I'm working on a book with Dean. I'm getting her stuff out there too, her experiences. So, but well, Jacob, it's been great talking to you, and I want to direct our listeners to where they can get your books and find out more about you. So, where should they go? Amazon or to your website?
We are on Amazon. Best places to find anything. Right now, I still got to get the guy who does our website to put all the paranormal books on there. But nightmarepress.net can keep an eye on that. There's also like if you like fiction too, that's there. But the paranormal is going to be on there soon too. You can also find it on Facebook. You can find Jacob Floyd author on Facebook, and I'm always posting about stuff like that on there. Our press is on Instagram as well. We don't have our own personal website right now, but um, yeah, we're just mostly Facebook and Amazon.
Okay, yeah, and you guys have a lot of books because I was looking on Amazon. There's a whole bunch. So if anybody's interested, check them out on Amazon. Be looking forward to like your new stuff coming out. Hopefully soon. Hopefully you get it all squared away and moving.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it all done as much as I can, and she's trying to find ways to promote it all.
It's hard when you're the people actually doing it. You don't have like a staff or anything like that. But hey, eventually maybe.
We do have a guy that, like I said, he's helping us run it. And he does like he's going to do book trailers and video type stuff. I got another guy who's trying to send out other people's books for promotion, and then we all try to do a little bit of editing, but I'm just going to do most of the editing, handle that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we just kind of a bunch of people doing it. It started out just me and Jenny, but when we revived it this time, I took on some help. So,
Oh, that's good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can have you back with Jenny so we can hear all about her adventures and encounters. So, maybe someday in the future we'd love to have you back.
We'd like to thank our amazing guest, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you have, please give us a like and a share, and please consider subscribing to our channel. We'll be back soon with another great guest. And as always, thanks for listening, and good night.